Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first company podcast. It's called Life Inside Verida. This is going to be a series that will be running throughout the course of the year, and everyone will have access to it. We'll be sharing more information as we go through these podcasts, but we're super excited about it. This particular podcast that we're doing today is in the month of March, and the month of March is Women's History Month. And the title of this particular podcast is Verida Women in Leadership. And we have special guests with us here today, and we'd like to introduce them in just a moment. But before we do, we'd like to give a special thank you to our founder, president, and CEO, Steve Adams, for allowing us to produce this series. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to give you information, education, and inspiration. Lots of fantastic stories. So now, without further ado, we're going to introduce our special guest today. And we'll start off right over here.
All right. Thank you, Keith. I'm Linda Wyatt. I am the Vice President of Client Relations. And what that means is that the state operations and ultimately the call center operations and probably one or two other things report up to me.
My name is Dina Adams-McNish, our Chief Development Officer. I primarily focus on getting new business and new markets with new clients, as well as implementations, contracting. I also run our DEI program, and I'm our representative for our MTAC Coalition, which is a group of transportation brokers coalition.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Walker-Jones. I am the Vice President of Finance. I work with the claims group, public transportation, AP on the accounting side, pretty much all things finance and accounting for the most part. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Kathy Misseldine, and I am the Chief Human Resources Officer. I am responsible for talent acquisition, talent and development, and our benefits programs.
Hi, I'm Lon Thompson, and I'm the call center director for Georgia. I also support Louisiana, Georgia WellCare, Mississippi, and Arkansas.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here today. And we'd like to actually jump right into our topics today. Because it is Women's History Month, we have our topics and questions revolved around women's history. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and you all feel free to chime in as I ask these questions, and we'll just have a little bit of a conversation. So my first question is, why is it important to have diversity within Verida's workplace, and why having women in leadership is important?
So I'll go ahead and jump in here. Sure. I think one of the things that makes diversity so important is because, one, a diverse workforce gives you a lot of different opinions and backgrounds that allows you to see things that you wouldn't normally see. It allows you to have opinions that are different from your own. And when it comes to women in leadership, it's really important that our employee base be able to see themselves in their leaders. Mm-hmm. That's why having diversity in leadership is just so valuable and so important. Mm-hmm. It allows you to know that, hey, somebody who looks like me is there and I can get there too.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I agree 100% with Dina. I just read an article, a white paper article from Culverpop, which kind of mentioned some of the same things that Dina touched on, the importance of having the diversity and how much more effective big decisions are being made and positive decisions. They said 87% of business decisions are going in the right direction when you have a more diverse makeup and team making those big decisions, to only 58% when it's just less diverse. So it's definitely important in making the right decisions and moving the company in the right direction.
I agree, and I think, with our recent formulation with Dina heading up our DE&I committee, not only is the diversity piece important, but to go with that, the equity piece. Mm-hmm. So making sure that, we're paying equitably, everyone has a fair shot at getting a promotion, going to training, all those type of things. And then finally, the inclusive piece, because diversity is one thing, but I think the ultimate goal is inclusiveness, so that, like Dina said, everyone feels they belong, everyone can see themselves in our leadership. So
Yeah, and I think it's especially important in this day and age. I mean, women are, slightly more than 50% of the population, right? So for Women's History Month, I think it's important for others to see good role models, to see things that they can aspire to, and for us as women and leaders to make sure that we're supporting those who come behind us.
Absolutely.
And building a path for them so that they feel like they do have a path to aspire to reach for, and a path to the top.
Right.
It's fantastic. Yeah, so I'd like to follow that up with another question. And this one is a little bit more personal to each of you. The question is, what has inspired you to take on the role that you have over your career? So just think back over your career and, where you've come from and the roles that you've taken on. So what inspired you to say, hey, I want to be in leadership?
So for me, I like to guide and mentor and help and coach folks along. I enjoy seeing someone start kind of entry level.
Yes.
And be able to rise above and continue to teach others and bring others up. I like the whole process. It's rewarding for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so much a positive here where we do have a good history of promoting from within. It's very unique, very unusual.
So when I speak to new candidates, that's the one thing that I always point out. There's room to grow. I give so many different examples of folks who have, again, started at entry level and moved on, and then they've brought people up and they've moved on, and it just continues. It's a great thing, and the company itself just allows us to do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned one key word I thought was really great. I think with most companies being able to mentor, have mentorship, because there are companies that you can be in where you don't have a sense of mentorship, and you're not able to really get the most out of your team. But when you have mentors in place, people have a feeling they have someone they can come to. They do have someone that they can look up to, that can inspire them to pursue being in leadership, being in management, being in those types of positions that the company needs. We need great leaders. We need innovative leaders. We need people that think outside the box, so to speak. So, I think being a mentor is definitely a key.
Yeah, and just going back to the diversity piece and how that flows into our leadership, I always say, relatability is key. And we are so diverse, and we have just a wide range of female leaders. Absolutely. We have that relatability for the employees. It may not be someone who's in your department, but then you have a mentor somewhere else who can help you grow and become, better professionally.
And I think that's why our first leadership development program was so near and dear to my heart. It was when I started here 5 or 6 years ago, it was, really, really needed. And then we finally got it rolled out last year. And part of that program is to have a mentor. And the team leads and the supervisors that are participating are just hungry for the knowledge. And I just, I know that I'm in the right place now, because I knew early on I wanted to be a leader. But when I got here, I knew I could have more impact by teaching others how to be a leader.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I agree. I think being in the call center, particularly, most people come in the door as an entry-level employee, so you have the opportunity to explore, have them develop their talents, and create a path or a advancement for them just by understanding their skills, creating a career succession plan with them, and understanding their goals. It makes it very easy, and as Rhonda mentioned, it's rewarding to see the growth and see the hunger. Kathy did mention the Level Up training. I have several of my supervisors and team leads that just completed that program, and they came back so excited about what they've learned and how they're going to be able to implement that into their day-to-day coaching and development of their teams. So it's a full circle moment.
It is.
That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to jump into another question. This one, there again, Women's History Month. This is a question for all of you. Who is a famous woman in history that you've admired and why?
I can jump in and start on that one. When I was younger, junior high probably, I was fascinated with Marie Curie, who was a scientist. And we're talking early 1900s, right? Without her, we probably don't have X-ray technology, for example, that we do today. But she was a fascinating woman, brilliant, probably the first woman to teach at the Sorbonne. Had a full professorship there, which was also quite unusual for that day and time. Is the only person to hold 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. So she has a shared one in physics, and I believe holds it herself in chemistry. So absolutely brilliant woman, discovered with her husband 2 radioactive elements. And so she just, to me, is absolutely brilliant and fascinating. And so that was, for me, someone that I found very intriguing, and read probably everything I could about her when I was probably 12.
Yeah. And of course, Linda, you have a background.
And then, yes, and then having a background in healthcare is probably what made it more interesting to me. My father was also a pharmacist, so that probably is why I ended up a little bit down that healthcare path as well.
Sure.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think for me, I look at the women, and it's been several that are the first in something, like what you were saying, because I think being the first at something requires a ton of courage, right? So whether it's, I don't know, Amelia Earhart being the first to do the transcontinental flight, or Carly Fiona, who was the first, Fortune 20 CEO that was a woman, Oprah Winfrey, first billionaire. Just women like that are the first. Michelle Obama, the first Black first lady. So I just think all of that takes courage, and they have such a special platform and motivation for the rest of us. Absolutely.
Courage, I like that word.
Yeah.
Yes. Certainly.
And I would say Patsy Mink for me. Growing up, very interested in sports, it was very important for Title IX to be passed, which allowed women to have scholarships, to be able to have that higher education and have it being paid for as the men athletes were. That was something that wasn't available prior to 1972. Wow. So by the time I was able to head off to college, I went to school on a full scholarship. Right. So, that was important to me, and it has continued to help women evolve through education and sports, from the court to the boardroom. Those things wouldn't have been available without Title IX being passed, and Patsy Mink being the pivotal person to ensure that those equal rights and opportunities were afforded to all girls and women. And currently, there are more women in college sports programs than men. Wow. And a higher percentage of women do complete their education that go through those college sports programs.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it certainly is. Wow. Okay, well, we're going to move on to our next question. What do you see as maybe some of the issues that are still facing women today, whether it's in this country or even internationally?
That's a tough one, right?
It is. It is.
We're
It certainly is.
We're still trying to prove ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been many, many years, but again, we're still trying to prove ourselves.
And 1972 really wasn't all that long ago, right? And the older I get, the less far back it is, but, right.
I mean, we're still trying to prove that we can do it very often. And I don't think people intentionally make us prove ourselves, but there are things that arise where it's like, okay, I have to show, right. I have to go that extra mile or two because they don't really see it, but we're still trying to prove ourselves.
Yeah, and I would say, so I'm a part of a women's organization. It's full of executive women, and some of our most common themes, which I think is crazy, is most of the women are dealing with imposter syndrome. I mean, these are vice presidents and C-level executives of companies who still feel like they're not meeting that expectation, or they're not supposed to be in that room. And that to me is such a disservice that, these wonderful, women who probably seem confident are still dealing with something like that. And so I think you can kind of see it across women. And then in addition to that, women are still so much carrying, other loads, family loads more than their counterparts. And so I think until, our homes are as equal as our workplaces, I think we're going to continue having some of those issues.
I agree, and I've often wondered with that piece, did COVID change that? With maybe both parents being at home, did that shift at all? And I guess we won't know that for a few years, saying, wow, look at all that goes on during the day with these children in school and everything else. Was there some balancing there? I don't know.
And I'm very blessed, obviously, to have been born in this country and have the opportunities that I've had. But I think about how is it possible in this day and age where we have women who still don't have the right to drive, right? Or the right to self-determination. When you think about internationally, we still have a long way to go in some places.
That's right.
Certainly do. Yeah. Well, thank you all. Now that we've talked about some of the things that we have, I'd also like to find out, how can we support others and contribute to women's causes within the workplace or even at home or outside of the workplace? Are there things that we can do to help support women's causes?
Inclusion and opportunity, and giving them a platform to be able to show what they are capable of doing. I think that's all that most women want, is that opportunity to have that seat at the table, to be able to have an equal playing field and contribute, and just contribute based on their ability and nothing more.
Agreed. I think we have to also give ourselves and others coming up some grace, right? It's tough, as we've been talking about, having the dual roles at home and work. And when we see that spark of leadership, and I've seen it several times in this company, being able to lend that support and mentorship and guidance, because that's sometimes all a person needs, right? And it doesn't take that long. And then I think we can use our voices and our position to speak up when it's not right, whether it's at our company in Verida or whether we see it in volunteer organizations or we see it in our community, the ability to speak up and say, hey, that's not how that person should be treated, or or whatever the issue might be. So I think voice and grace is very important.
Absolutely.
And I think one beautiful thing about being in leadership and being a leader is you can change the problems in the system from within. So when we talk about, like what you're saying, giving grace, it starts by us giving people grace, and then it will lead to everybody else. As leaders, if we show and we lead with empathy, others will lead with empathy as well.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, we have to remember too that, we're not alone, right? There's a group of us. There's 5 of us sitting here, but there's a whole group of us, and it truly is a sisterhood, right? That has to support and mentor, and to Kathy's point, make sure the right things are done. But we're not alone. So we should not be afraid to not only support others, but to lean on others as well.
And I think that's a struggle sometimes, obviously, because we're caught up in the politics of things, right?
Absolutely.
We're still proving ourselves in different situations and positions. So you think about what you have going on, but it is a sisterhood, and we just have to remember that, and share those thoughts and feelings or situations with your sisters, to kind of get the guidance and support and direction, or just the support, I think, from the rest of the group, and not just be in your situation, politicking, trying to prove your point, because it's just that situation. There may be others going through the same thing. So.
Well, I've got one more point, sorry.
Sure. No, go right ahead.
So I feel like at Verida, we have leaders all over this place, right? And I saw that so vividly last week in the leadership development class that these 2 ladies sent some of their up-and-coming leaders that they've seen, you know, in their departments. And we have one that's not a leader yet, but is aspiring, and the confidence that built in that person is immeasurable. Same with you, the one that's just been promoted, you know, the confidence that one action has done by recognizing, allowing them to come to the event has immeasurable results on that.
That's
know.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you know, we love to hear stories like that, you know, and hopefully as we move into future podcasts, we'll be hearing even more stories about some of the great things that are going inside Verida. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I'm going to close out with this. If anyone has anything else they'd like to share in regards to Women's History Month or the company in general, feel free. I would just like to say thank you to all of you for being our guests. This is our very first, so we hope it goes well, but I'm sure it will. We've had some great dialogue today, and we look forward to continuing to see you all lead and do great things, and Verida do great things as well. Thank you very much.